Hey there, we're outside today for another Cigar Advisor Cigar Review panel, Cigar Review. I'm Gary Korb, Executive Editor for cigaradvisor.com, and today we're going to do something a little out of the ordinary. We're going to be smoking the PDR Natural Roast Café Robusto, and this is a first for PDR cigars. It's a coffee-infused cigar, and I think it's time that we just get right to our lovely Cigar Review panelists and see what we think of this thing. He learned how to dance from Snowball, the famous head-banging cockatoo. Say hello to Jared Bulick. Even at his age, he still smells like Teen Spirit. It's Tommy Z-Man.
True.
A man who knows the true meaning of a little dabble do ya, Mr. John Pulo. Okay, so, welcome panel. The factory is PDR Cigars in Tamboril, Dominican Republic. Okay. The dimensions are 5 by 52. It's nice dimensions. It's, I guess the strength would be Mellow Plus.
I'd agree with that.
Okay. And the wrapper is in Ecuadorian Connecticut. It's very nice looking. It doesn't have any blemishes I can see on it. And it has a slightly sweetened cap. And what I like about this cap is, I'm not a big fan of sweetened caps, but I like when they do it with natural cane sugar. That's what they did here. So it's not... It doesn't have that artificial sugar taste that I really don't like.
Saccharine kind of thing that lingers with you?
Yeah. The binder is a Dominican Criollo 98, and the fillers are a mix of Nicaraguan and Dominican. So there you go. It's a nice looking blend. And also, what I like about this cigar is it's got a nice little Cuban pigtail on the top. You know, little
A balloon
pigtail.
knot.
And it's got a closed foot at the bottom, too.
Boy, Abe Flores went all out with the presentation on this
yeah.
one. Actually, that wrapper has a little bit of a nice sheen to it, too.
Yeah.
For being in Connecticut.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely used good stuff, and
Nice.
I'm going to be lighting it up in a second. But let's talk about the presentation. It comes in boxes of 20 cigars and 5-packs. The Robusto, I think you can also get in singles. And the famous price per box. Tommy, what do you think a box of these would cost the average
Why do you
cigar
always ask
smoker?
me, put me on the spot like that? $6, $180, I don't know. But,
Would it cost more or less than your Oakleys?
oh no, less than my
Just use
Oakleys.
that as the gauge.
Definitely less than my Oakleys. No, if I had to guess a
1.5 oak
price, what's a very, very well-made cigar, I'm guessing about $125 a box.
Well, you know, maybe the list price, but the famous
Yeah.
price.
If you'd like to overpay, sure.
If you buy them at famous-smoke.com online or in the store, it's $97.99.
Oh, that's pretty good.
It's under $100 for a box of 20.
Wow.
And a 5-pack will set you back $24.99, which is not bad either. So, let's get going.
Just to digress real quick to
Yeah.
your point about
Whoops.
the cane sugar. They actually use cane sugar throughout the process of infusion for the cigar, which
Oh.
is very different from most.
That's
your
good to
point,
know.
You were talking about saccharin
All right.
and how that's often used, but it's a little bit more rare that actual cane sugar is used, and I just thought it was a cool attribute that on both the cap and throughout the cigar for its flavoring that they use real sugar.
Okay.
Nice.
It also has a secondary band to protect the wrapper. I like that. Covers most of the cigar. And I'll get that off. And then, sometimes when you have a Cuban pigtail, you don't cut it. You just kind of twist it off.
Or you can even bite it,
Or you could bite it off. I think that would be crude to do on television.
That's why I did it
But-
before the cameras were rolling.
Let's see how the draw is, though.
Privacy of your own smoking arrangement.
Hmm.
It's a little stiff because don't forget it's got a closed foot.
Yeah.
So it's not going to allow as much of the airflow
Yeah.
in there, but that's
So that's the problem.
there it is.
As opposed to
Sorry.
a club foot.
It's not
is what you're
drawing,
getting
huh?
at, right?
Nice aroma. Okay. All right, well, let's talk about construction. Tommy, we'll start with you. How well is this cigar made?
This one is extremely well made. My first one, I thought was maybe a little bit flaky and stuff, but you guys all said no, yours were great, and then this one is fantastic. I mean, that ash is square and straight and is firm and white, and it's a very solid cigar, and it's a very nice wrapper on it. So it looks good.
Okay. Jared, anything
Yeah,
about that?
I mean, even for look how straight it's burning, even being outside.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a problem like you did on my first cigar with the ash or the flakiness, but I did, I did notice that it was burning straight, and I think this is a testament. When you're outside, cigars are notorious for going a little sideways on you, and this one isn't at all. It's not budging.
And that's because right now where we're sitting, it's pretty breezy.
Yeah.
So breeze, the same as like when you smoke with your hand in a car near the open window, it can cause it to burn a little funny, but this is burning great.
Here's the thing, for a coffee-infused cigar, there's not a lot of coffee up front. It's sweeter like a chocolate.
I agree.
And actually,
Yeah, and it smells like chocolate now.
Let me even back up even further, and because that's an important thing, and it's a distinction we want to talk about.
Okay.
That if you know, a lot of times people will just, take a whiff before it's even lit, and go ahead and mock me if you want that this is way down the rabbit hole on flavors, but just by going ahead and taking a whiff of the infusion when we took it out of the packaging, it hit me like mint chocolate chip. How does that
Maybe
distinct...
maybe it's like a minty thing. It was
It's a
something,
distinct chocolate, almost like dark chocolate. Think Andy's candies, right? Those little mint after dinner.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's darker chocolate with a little layer of mint in there, and it's kind of got that, but it's almost like truffly, like fluffy.
Yeah.
That kind of sensation.
Well, I know what you mean by that, because I'm sitting here thinking almost like baked goods, like chocolatey baked goods. And but so when I say that, make no mistake, this is an infused cigar, and but you know what? I could smoke this in the morning with a first cup of coffee, easy. I think it's really like a dessert cigar.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that? This is a dessert
give you
cigar.
that.
Sure.
But I should have a coffee right now, and I did the other day. I had it in the morning with a coffee. It's very, very nice, and I don't think it's gonna wreck your neck cigar or anything, because the flavors aren't intense. They're just they're on, like they were saying, the mellowish to maybe medium side, but it's just pleasant. And with a cup of coffee, it's amazing.
It's interesting that you say that about the baked goods, because to bridge the gap between you and you, Earl, you weren't even here for that yet, but you were trying to convince me of this mint chocolate chip that I'm not quite seeing, but I picked up some cookie dough.
Okay.
Some like that cookie
Yes,
dough.
it is like that.
So it's like in between so mine was a cookie dough ice cream. So in between the baked goods and mint chocolate chip ice cream is cookie dough ice cream.
But
You
you
know,
know
There are
what?
a
Let's
lot of these softer but sweeter flavors.
Right, but let's make it
Absolutely.
clear, not intense.
No,
when he says
not
cookie
intense.
dough, when he says chocolate chip, it's not like you're tasting that full effect of that ice
No,
cream. It's
not at all.
It's your mind's big taste
yes.
bud being reminded of what that sensation
Picking
is
it up.
like and picking it up. Now, the other thing is, too, is that it's not enough to just say that this is a coffee-infused cigar. We've been talking a lot about
that's
that.
true.
Because there are different types of coffee drinks.
Right.
There are cappuccinos, there are lattes, there are mochas, there are espressos.
Sure.
So, therefore, there are different types of coffee infusions. Java, which has its mochas and latte type of flavors. Tabac is sweetened Nicaraguan coffee. Nub, there's Nub Cafe. There's 3 different kinds of Nub Cafe. This PDR Natural Roast, and this is one of, I think, 3 different blends. that
Yes, there are 2
PDR
others.
have
yeah.
released. One is a medium roast and one's a dark roast.
Correct.
This one is the, shall we say, the most creamy.
Yeah.
This one, I think, eventually settles into cafe au lait territory.
Yeah.
So think.
I was going to say latte or something like
So
that.
whipped milk,
Yeah.
whipped cream, less espresso and more sweetened coffee type of flavors. Sweet and just a little, for lack of a better word, fluffy.
Fluffy.
Desserty.
Well, it is. It's a dessert cigar. But you can eat sweets, as I said about this being a really nice breakfast cigar. You can have a cinnamon roll or a donut or baked goods, and that's kind of what it's like when you have it with your morning coffee, which I did.
And I am right now. I think John is too.
And I was surprised how much I liked that, because I didn't think I was going to like it, and I really did.
Hey, let's get a look at Jared's ash there. It's
Let me see.
It's really
this thing
not
is burning
wow.
great. And we have a little
marble on
breeze
that.
today, but it's really holding up nice.
yeah, it's
I-
actually
It's holding up very well considering the conditions that we're in. And it's kind of, it's funny that you bring up the other coffee infused cigars like Nub, like Tabac, because this has its own identity. It's not nearly as coffee forward as those other blends, in my opinion. It's more of I don't want to say an afterthought as a negative, but if you like an infused cigar, or if you've ever had an infused cigar, especially coffee infused, and you're like, this is a little overboard for me, I wouldn't mind it being more dialed back. I think this is definitely going to be in your wheelhouse, because it's it's just not as forward. It's just not as in your face as a tobacco or a Java or even one of those nubs. It's just a little bit more laid back, and I like that about it.
Has anyone retrohaled this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what about that?
You first.
Okay, so because I know I'm about to get beat up for this one, I don't actually get anything at all in the retro. It's almost like air for me. Like maybe at the very tail end of it, I feel a little bit of spice in my nose, but it's not adding to the experience for me. And my takeaway for that is that if you can't retrohale, which a lot of people can't, or if you don't know how to, in my opinion, it's not going to be a huge factor. You're not going to be missing a lot. But I know you had a very different experience.
It was very different, and having just retrohaled this now while you were speaking, there's a little bit of spice to it. But
Yeah,
this is
I just did.
this brings back a memory to me of it was called the Diablo, and it was my first job out of college, and there was a coffee shop that was across the street from where I worked, and they had something on their menu called the Diablo, and it was caramel macchiato, which is basically an espresso with a layer
Like that.
of foamed milk, but they added hot chocolate to it. So it was kind of like half and half. So creamy, but still the juice of that espresso. So if you really want to start picking up the coffee notes that have been infused into the cigar, you're going to find them, I think, primarily in the retrohale, but it's still going to retain the sweetness of all that mocha, chocolate, etc. that's going on. It just reminded me so much of that drink that I used to. I mean, it didn't hurt that the girl who worked there was nice.
She was smoking too.
And but it was aside from that, it was a really good coffee.
Now you guys aren't getting cedar on the retrohale.
None.
No.
I don't get cedar in the cigar at all, but in the retrohale, I'm getting a very sweet cedar. Well, everybody's different.
Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about the balance. Is this well balanced, the cigar? We find. I think it's pretty well balanced. I think everything is kind of like got its nice own little lane, and it's just kind of going along there.
Yes,
pretty evenly.
yes and no. I mean, I think there's some points at which you get some of those sweeter flavors kind of drop off, and it's more of the dry Connecticut flavor that comes through a little bit.
Yeah.
So you get some of that dry taste that comes, and that's indicative of a Connecticut wrapper anyway. And the coffee, like the caramely taste, kind of dials back, and you're left with basically what amounts to more or less diner coffee. But you kind of go through those lulls only very occasionally. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm getting like more of that, like a mocha
yeah.
flavor than like I'm drinking coffee. This is the coffee I like. I made it the way I like it. But I'm getting more, like you said, it's like a different type of coffee off of this cigar
Right.
than my regular everyday coffee.
It's a totally different preparation, because I mean, how many different coffee drinks are there, right?
Oh well, this is Costa
Dozens.
Rican.
Okay, so and that's got a completely different flavor profile.
Sure.
Than
Like 8
the
o'clock.
kind of coffee. If I like a Kona in the morning or something,
Okay.
it's going to be one's going to be a little more bold than the other. It's going to be how do you fix it, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a specialty coffee drink that has been fixed,
Right.
in a cigar sort of way,
Yeah.
to be easier going, creamy, sweet, caramely.
And I should mention, the Abe Flores, Pinar del Rio cigars, they call PDR now. They make some excellent cigars. I mean, they've gotten high scores on so many of their cigars. The quality is so. I was a little surprised to see this, but I'm kind of glad. I guess it's really quite different, and it's well made. In fact, I got off to a bad burn because I didn't light it well. I lit it right through the foot there, and but it's evened out really nicely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so this is well made.
Gary, so what's the filler and binder?
It is not Nicaraguan and Dominican
And
filler, and then the binder
Criollo
was
98.
the Criollo,
Yeah.
Criollo 98, which is a nice tobacco.
I only ask because you notice how white my ash was, like really white. I don't think yours is as much, but
That's
It's more like a gray, almost a solid
yeah.
gray.
I mean, it's not salt. When he had
No,
that big
look at
ash burn,
mine.
it was like pretty salt and pepper.
Yeah,
Mine's-
you can still see it in there. It's
mine's
very
pretty
marbled.
white.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, you see his right next to mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you guys can't see it on camera, but his is like solid white compared to mine, which is marbled.
Oh, there it goes.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I mean it's very relaxing. It is very mellow. We will say that.
For
so.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
So who is this cigar for, Tommy?
I think real estate salesmen are going to love this cigar, and I think tree guys. And that reminds me, I got to call my tree guys. Wayne, he's going to show my trees. Who is this cigar for? Well, I think this is a good gateway cigar for beginners, definitely. To get that. Maybe they've been afraid to try a cigar, and to give them this, the way like acids are gateway cigars to get people into regular cigars.
Okay.
I think this is definitely for people who like infused cigars. And I know a lot of you out there don't like infused cigars. So, we can't change that. And I'm not a big fan. Actually, the only infused cigars I've really liked before are Java. And I love Java. I think Java's a cigar you can give to a guy who doesn't like infused cigars, and he'll like it.
Yeah, I agree.
And I do like the Nub Cafes. And I think this falls a little more under the line of like a Nub Cafe with the sweetness and everything. I think the ladies who don't like cigar smoke, and again, I'm talking about my wife and a couple of her friends, when I smoke, they, start turning green and swearing in different languages. But I think they're going to like this. But if you want a nice change of pace dessert cigar, this is definitely for you, and that's what it is for me.
I agree with all your points, but I think additionally the cigar is for someone who doesn't necessarily like infused cigars, who wants something that's going to be kind of like that half and half that you were talking about, but in this instance it's going to be half a traditional cigar, half the infusion, because like I was saying before, it's not as in your face. It's not going to be upfront and just smack you with coffee flavor. It's a little bit more subtle than the rest of the pack, and that's what creates its identity. So on top of everything that he said, which I agree, if you have just said, you know what, I'm not getting into this infusion game, maybe I've tried one of these cigars before and it was just too much, this is a lot more dialed back. So maybe give this a shot and you might have a different experience and like this.
I think this is a great dessert cigar, but for all that we have been talking about pairing this with a cup of coffee while you smoke it, I think you have to be a little bit careful, or you have to really, really like coffee. Because to me, the first one I smoked, I didn't have a drink with it. I'm having coffee with it now. I actually enjoyed it more without the coffee, because to me, drinking coffee with a coffee, and this particular coffee infused cigar is like a hat on a hat.
Redundant.
Yes, it's like there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, especially in this case, and if it's not the right kind of coffee. So I think it stands perfectly fine on its own as a dessert cigar. So later in the evening, even though it's mellow plus, as Gary described before, but you can enjoy it with a drink. Amaretto, if you're into that almondy taste.
What? Well, we didn't even talk about flavor profiles, but amaretto was the very first thing that hit me. It's got that.
Yeah, it does have kind of
amaretto has that almond cherry kind of
Yes.
sweetness. That is really here.
So you could enjoy this with an anisette if you prefer that licorice
anisette
kind of
would be
taste
great.
after dinner. A nice digestive. If you really want to get your Greeky freaky happening, ouzo. You could put this with ouzo, and I bet you'd have a great time, because these are anisette, ouzo, and amaretto are three things that you could add to a coffee anyway. So why not go ahead and have some while you smoke it after dinner? That's a pairing you could go ahead and make.
Now, could you have a coffee liqueur with it, or again, is that too much?
I think
That
that's
Kahlua?
hat on a hat territory. I think that's over.
Hat on a hat.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you on that. I kind of like it. I kind of like it with the coffee.
So I like it
because
with the coffee too.
I'm getting like two different kind of coffee flavors, but you stole my thunder.
Sorry.
When you talked about
That's what
like
I did.
amaretto and because it's true. I think this cigar would be ideal with that kind of after dinner liqueur or something, or even that orange liqueur that I had with the La Marie.
The one
La
that got
Meridiana.
all
Well, like a Grand Marnier.
teed
the,
up.
A Grand Marnier would go great with this.
All right, so let's sum it up. Tommy, what do you think of the cigar overall?
I think it's a dessert cigar. And,
Okay.
I certainly wouldn't have it with a dinner because it would kind of fight with the taste of your food. I wouldn't have it midday, but I would have it early in the morning or morning with coffee, and I would have it. You know what? maybe you know what, John, like you were saying, maybe a piece of cheesecake, or you know, like a fruity type of dessert, like a cherry tart or a blueberry pie or something.
You're a cherry tart.
Yeah, I know I'm a cherry tart. I'm a Polish tart, and I'm
Is
proud
that
of
like
it.
upside down cake?
I'm proud of it, people.
It's like Taylor ham.
Yes, Taylor ham. There's no such thing as pork roll, people. But wouldn't this go nice with desserts? I mean, if you had,
if you're,
you know,
it's
if
a
you're,
dessert
you
cigar,
know,
might as well add food.
if you had, yeah, if you had your like mini Venetian table going on, if you had 3 or 4, maybe some chocolate, some strawberries, some cheesecake, and you had this, I think that'd be a kind of neat experience, especially with a good port wine, a good 20 port. I never even thought
Yeah.
of that, but
This would
when
go
you
good
say
with that, too.
dessert cigar,
Yeah.
this would go great with dessert.
In the words of the great John Pullo, I could be pushed.
This is true.
Jared, your summary, what's going on with that?
My summary for the cigar is simple. I think the first half is where it truly shines, especially if you're looking for that infused quality. The second half is where you get more of the traditional cigar flavor. The earthiness comes out a little bit more. You get a little bit more notes of that woodiness and that tobacco flavor. But overall, like I said, it really has its own place in the infused market, and I think you're going to get something very different than you get from anything else in the coffee infused line there. So.
Okay.
I'm glad you brought up that first half, second half split, because you know once the sweetened cap sensation kind of goes away, and being natural cane sugar, it goes away I think a lot sooner than it does as opposed to
Yeah,
the
it
artificial sweetener.
Oh, sure.
Than anything like that. The second half, you'll notice this cigar truly has a sweet spot, and that sweet spot is pretty much where we're at now. And if it starts moving past that, you're going to start noticing some other flavors coming through. A different change
Yeah.
of pace
Yeah.
for an infused cigar.
It's got, you know what? After listening to everybody here, it's got a lot more going on than I thought. It's even on my first time around with it. I just think it's you know, really well balanced, and it's got that nice subtle coffee flavor to it. But you know, the aroma. When I was, you know, before I lit mine up, you know, you guys were all already smoking, and I thought the aroma was great. You know, I just
Yeah,
love
it's
that kind of
unlit aroma.
coffee
It's like,
mocha kind of aroma,
Yeah,
and
just-
like that vanilla, whatever.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot going on in this cigar, and I think that this is going to be a really nice departure for our friend Abe Flores, and I hope he does well with it. Anyway, so the PDR Natural Roast Café Robusto. So thanks to our panel, and don't forget to watch cigaradvisor.com every Wednesday on Facebook. We are also on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. And thank you for watching, and happy smokes.